This is Investment Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Daily live streaming interactive. Featuring Mrs. Backup. Subscribe, hit the notification, smash the likes. Now, here's Backup Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back, everybody in the XRP community. I just want to make a quick video about the interview with Brad Garlinghouse and Julia Chatterley that was released this morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. There's many little things in there that are great points to go over. One of the things that I want to focus on out of that is this exchange that happened between Julia Chatterley and Brad Garlinghouse in respect to central bank digital currencies. Now, as you guys know, we've had this discussion many times on this show, and we know that we have seen that China has said they're going to make a central bank digital currency. We know that other central banks have announced that they're going to make central bank digital currencies. And I tell you, we have recently from the World Economic Forum covered extensively here about the World Economic Forum Policymaker Toolkit, which I'm going to show to you now as a reminder. I pulled this up again for you guys to see this as a reminder that this is from the World Economic Forum Central Bank Digital Currency Policymaker Toolkit up here in the corner. Okay? This is the framework that they all were handed, given out, and let them know what was going to happen and how it's all going to work. If we come down into here, right, the Digital Payments Ecosystem Landscape Evaluation, we could start moving through these sections, come down here, most relevant wholesale CBDC. We see here in this section right here, crypto assets designed for inter or intra-bank payment and settlement. Examples, JP Morgan coin and XRP. That says it right there. We've gone over this. It's not breaking news there, but I think it's perfect to set this piece of information up before we listen to this exchange that's on CNN. It's on mainstream media news, and that's a big deal as well. Okay, so now with that being said, let me queue up here and get this ready so we can take a look at this exchange. Now, the volume's not crazy loud on their interview, and I think it's because they're at the New York Stock Exchange, and they must have like a lot of compression or a noise limiter on both of them talking. It's very quiet, so bear with me. I am going to try to keep this so you can hear this as best you can for this exchange here. And let's listen to this. I want you guys to hear what happens here, and let's talk about it. Here we go.
At some point in the near future, a Chinese digital coin, a Fed coin, because the conversations are being had. Everyone's looking at this and trying to understand what it would mean for them to not be in the game here.
And I just want to pause this real quick because the conversations are being had. Well, you know how she knows that? Because she was at Davos too, at the World Economic Forum, and so was Brad Garlinghouse.
And I know we can have the conversation about decentralized versus centralized and what it would mean even to have a central bank digital coin.
The word central bank.
I know, we're struggling here. However.
Look, when I step back and I think about it macro, I think it's really healthy and constructive for the entire crypto blockchain community to see central banks and central governments lean into what can these new technologies do to make our economy more efficient, our payment infrastructure more efficient, any transaction more efficient. So at large, I think it's really positive. Mnuchin was asked about this in Davos, and he made a point which I think has some validity, which is the Fed window in the United States. If a bank goes to the Fed window, they're not getting a crate of dollars, paper dollars. They're getting a digitized, centralized ledger entry. And so there's kind of like, what's the difference between if the central bank issues a centralized token versus what they do today? Like, how different is that? Now, there's some governments around the world that might, you could argue, say, well, a central bank could go direct to consumers, and you could have an account with the central bank. I don't think in most of the Europe, US, you're going to circumvent the commercial banks. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
What about you, for Ripple, building a platform that could perhaps substitute XRP for a Fed coin one day, or
we think about
other
The XRP ledger as an open source technology, we think about how do we make it really useful for the customers we work with. We also think about how do we make it extensible and how do we participate in that open source community in a way that makes it extensible to other types of customers.
Notice how he just fielded and positioned that question. Julia asked him, how do you feel about Fed coin and whether XRP could be a Fed coin someday or something of that nature, right? And listen to this exchange again and how he shifts and starts talking about the protocol, the ledger, and about how it's able to have anybody build on it. Let's set this up again.
Central bank issues not getting a crate of dollars, paper dollars. They're getting a digitized, centralized ledger entry. And so it's kind of like, what's the difference between if the central bank issues a centralized token versus what they do today? Like, how different is that? Now, there's some governments around the world that might, you could argue, say, well, a central bank could go direct to consumers. You could have an account with the central bank. I don't think in most of the Europe, US, they're going to circumvent the commercial banks. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
What about you, for Ripple, building a platform that could perhaps substitute XRP for a Fed coin one day, or
when we think about
other...
The XRP ledger as an open source technology, we think about how do we make it really useful for the customers we work with. We also think about how do we make it extensible and how do we participate in that open source community in a way that makes it extensible to other types of customers.
He's absolutely addressing the fact that, well, they're welcome to build a coin on the ledger too, right? Isn't it? Because back end XRP is going to settle everything. There's no dodging or mincing it. All of this is started by him remarking that Steve Mnuchin was at Davos, and Steve Mnuchin was making the point at Davos, that's right, the head of the U.S. Treasury Department, that everything is on a ledger now. It's not a grand step or grand thought to suggest that we should create a token to represent the value that's already captured on a digital ledger now. When you make a payment to the Fed, you're not sending pallets of cash. That's his own point from Steve Mnuchin at Davos. I think that's really, really impactful when you think about his comments last week in front of Congress talking about FinCEN having a new set and level of requirements coming out very soon, he said. Very soon. So this is pretty interesting. Let's listen to the rest of this.
Could central banks? Sure, they could use aspects of that.
Be more efficient, what they create one day.
Yeah, and that ultimately is the underpinning I think we all focus on. How can we make this more efficient for customers? And right now, the customers we focus on are commercial banks, payment providers. We certainly are thinking about other types of customers we could serve. I have made the point, I don't know if I've ever said it on air, but I've made the point that in the earliest days of Amazon, it's called Amazon Books. It was a bookseller. It competed with Barnes & Noble, competed with Borders, and when I think about Ripple today is viewed as a cross-border payments company. We view ourselves as a blockchain infrastructure company. The first vertical we've done is cross-border payments. We want to make sure we're winning in cross-border payments before we do another vertical.
There you go. They see themselves as a blockchain infrastructure company, and that's important to note. And the cross-border payments is just the first vertical that they're pursuing. And knowing full well that we all realize, because we follow this quite closely, right, as a community. So we all realize that they are building derivatives. They are building products that are for Forte for gaming industry. They're working with Coil in the micropayment sector. Now, I want you to think about the channels like YouTube and other channels like that, where you could actually have, or even if you were to be a blogger, it could be on your own website, and people could pay and stream your content for reading it, right, or watching it, or whatever it is. Even if like the Wall Street Journal, and instead of ordering the whole yearly subscription or 3 months, you could just choose to go in that day and read that one article that you want and stream payment to them while you read that one article. This is where things are moving. And it's interesting to me because Brad Garlinghouse is noted is clearly noted for writing the peanut butter manifesto for Yahoo, in that you must be careful not to spread yourself too thin, as he recognized at the time Yahoo had done to their demise in that particular moment. So if you look at that and know that he has that strength and perspective in business in the way to capture the energy of a company and move them forward to accomplish goals, knowing that they're invested in all these other areas, I feel like we're not only in a place where we're getting ready to see utility become the price driver, I also feel like we're in a place where we're about to see them make a clear shift and explore other verticals, which we know they're already in. Because this is a guy who knows to not spread himself too thin. So that's exciting to me as well, because if you see Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse and the crew shift and really start to pursue other areas, it's clearly because they know they have the first vertical already locked up.
We will certainly do other verticals leveraging these technologies.
So you're open potentially in the future at some point to using the Fed coin or the one coin. I'm pushing because the head of blockchain technology at JP Morgan told me if the Fed came up with a coin, they dumped JP Morgan coin. So I'm asking you whether you're open to the possibility of...
Sure. I mean, yeah. I think I'm very open. You know, even if the Fed in the United States is using a coin, you still have a cross-border settlement dynamic where if you have central banks around the world using their own digital asset, I don't think it changes the need for a cross-border neutral
something
settlement.
In the middle, like an XRP.
And XRP has been extremely efficient. I mean, look, we obviously have a vested interest in that, and we're not bashful about that. But XRP is extremely efficient from a technical point of view in terms of speed, in terms of scalability, in terms of cost. Where I'm a Bitcoin holder, but it's not going to solve a payments problem when the transaction time and transaction cost is, almost 1,000x what it is for XRP.
What's going on with the price of XRP, and why did Mike Novogratz weigh in on this and suggest it was going to be another bad year in 2020?
I think the short answer is I think Mike doesn't fully follow Ripple very closely. There's a lot of things he wasn't aware of some of the stuff we're doing in MoneyGram. I think if he watches this, he'll be surprised to hear that we had $54 million of ODL flows last week. Look, there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of misinformation in this market, and I think it's important to make sure that the industry is educated. And it's the reason why I try to get out and make sure that we're sharing what really is going on with real customers solving real problems.
And there you have it. And he's absolutely right. There's a lot of misinformation going on about XRP and what's taking place. And there is a lot of FUD, as it were, and he's being very polite because Mike Novogratz is a Bitcoin guy and has been for quite a long time. And he clearly is in denial or just not aware of what is actually taking place. And it is exciting. I want to just recap here that, they just had a conversation on CNN, International Go, with Julia Chatterley about central bank digital currencies creating their own CBDCs and settling them with XRP, even if they dump the JP Morgan coin, because the guy at JP Morgan told her if the Fed comes up with a coin, they'll dump the JP Morgan coin. That's exactly right. But as Brad said, they still need a neutral asset, and she acknowledges to sit in between everybody's digital currency, and that's exactly right, and that's exactly where they position themselves for the first vertical. And I just want to go again to here, which means that the examples they gave here for intra and interbank settlements would be JP Morgan coin and the XRP coin. So all we really need to hear now is the Fed announce that they're going to launch a coin, which I think we know that they are. And when they do, they're not going to use the JP Morgan coin. They'll be using the XRP coin back end for settlement, because that will come off the list for an example. And let me give you that. There it is right there. And there's the example of the JP Morgan coin, the XRP token for interbank settlement. And as the person from JP Morgan told Julia Chatterley, if the Fed coin comes up with a coin, they'll drop the JP Morgan coin. But they won't drop the use of the XRP token because it's a neutral asset. JP Morgan's just another bank coin. So you can see clearly here, it almost looks like this is a prop to show JP Morgan coin, because the Fed is going to come up with their own coin, I really do believe. And that leaves XRP for settlement for all the central banks that exist, and even more. We all know about the other verticals that they're pursuing as well. This is fantastic news. This is what we're talking about. These conversations that Julia Chatterley was referencing earlier, was about her time at Davos, which is where this document came from. So that's where we're at today, and that's just one part of what we saw in that video with the interview today with Brad. I know a lot of things felt like it was the standard delivery from Brad, but I don't feel that it was. I feel like the narrative is getting more clear every day that XRP is a neutral asset, and it shows to be highly efficient and very efficient, like Brad Garlinghouse said. And I do believe we are not long, and maybe this year, sometime this year, I believe we get to see that curtain get pulled back and XRP truly get the position that it should have. And in order to do that, it's going to need the definition of what XRP is, because it still doesn't have it, right? Some more regulatory clarity, which I believe involves adopting some protocols, and off we go. We'll have a transformation in the digital space, and we forevermore will never be the wild, wild west again. And everything will have to transact and touch the ledgers that they are deemed systematically important or a public good. So there you have it, guys. Hit the like and subscribe. We got to read between the lines, but we got to not hype it, right? We got to read between the lines. That's why I brought up the World Economic Forum Policy Toolmaker Kit, so we could look at that against this and see that, yeah, they were just at Davos talking together there, listening to the same thing. I found it very interesting that they remarked that Steve Mnuchin was making the case for a central bank digital currency coin, because we're already dealing with digitized ledger transactions anyway. So this gets exciting more and more by the day. Let's see what FinCEN comes out with very soon. Until then, hit the like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. I'll catch you on the next one.